全面出咗好多自己 case 啦。
We have had a stern warning from China saying that those who play with fire will perish by it.
Now to those rising tensions on the streets of Hong Kong.
A massive show of unity in Hong Kong as hundreds of thousands of protesters pour into the streets.
China's growing control over Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. The protests taking place are unbelievable yet fascinating, and the protesters are smart and resourceful. It all started with the creation of the extradition bill, suggested and passed by the Hong Kong legislative. The bill calls for any criminals to be prosecuted in mainland China by judges who are controlled by the Communist Party. This gives mainland China the power to oversee and control Hong Kong more than they should according to current agreements.
Hong Kong was a former British colony returned to China in 1997. Since Britain is a democracy, Hong Kong adopted democracy as well but clashed heavily with China's communist nation. Under the policy of one country, two systems, Hong Kong will belong to China but remain a separate government body. Consisting of a 1,200-person election committee that chooses the chief executive, this is Hong Kong's equivalent to the president, but the council is heavily seated with pro-China officials, which means whoever Beijing wants as chief executive will receive that position. The real problem lies, however, in the extradition bill, which heavily impacts the Chinese people. When it comes to punishment and crime in China, the system is very unjust and cruel, sometimes even punishing innocent civilians. One can only imagine what cruel and harsh conditions the people of Hong Kong could be exposed to.
The most recent protests are an objection of the bill, which was suggested and brought up in February 2019 and passed in April. The term extradition means when somebody commits a crime in one area and flees to another, that said person can then be returned to the jurisdiction they committed the crime in. For example, El Chapo fueled the drug trade and cartels in America, and when he was found by the Mexican government, he was extradited to the US to face a trial. Therefore, with the new bill, China could do the exact same thing to Hong Kong. Suspects could be extradited to Taiwan and mainland China on a case-to-case basis under the control of the chief executive. The bill was also pushed through legislation unusually quick, and one of the reasons why was to prosecute a Hong Kong man for a murder in Taiwan, according to Carrie Lam, the chief executive of Hong Kong.
The city is extremely advanced and even has advanced police and riot control. Similar to mainland China, Hong Kong has numerous cameras throughout the city, approximately one camera for every 140 people in Hong Kong. But don't underestimate the protesters. They are very intelligent and resourceful and are using various simple yet creative techniques to fight for their beliefs. Putting a traffic cone over tear gas directs the smoke, and pouring water on top diffuses it. Umbrellas are used for protection from pepper spray and rubber bullets. Hard hats are worn as a symbol of protest and for protection. And the use of laser pointers to obstruct cameras with facial recognition are all techniques. One of the more advanced techniques the protesters are using is the app Telegram, a cloud-based instant messaging service that is secure and out of reach from authorities. The app allows tens of thousands of people to vote on polls on what should happen next, and this is used tactically for the movement of protesting spots. The authorities have cut off phone signals in some locations, but protesters still communicate using Bluetooth technology like iPhone's AirDrop function. The protesters use this technology to live up to the "Be Water" slogan. The slogan was taken from the famous Hong Konger martial artist Bruce Lee. Using their phones, the protesters are fluid like water and disperse where the police are strong and appearing where they are not. The protesters have also developed hand signals to use at different times and call for items they need on the front lines. Allen keys, pliers, and scissors are all commonly used tools on the street to dismantle or assemble barricades and other obstacles. Other things such as helmets, cable ties, and masks are also called for. Objects are passed via a human chain, and they can stretch up to 1 kilometer in length. These techniques have provided the protesters with the strength they need to hold their ground and fight until they reach their goal.
On June 15, 2019, Carrie Lam announced that she would indefinitely suspend the extradition bill, although this isn't what the protesters fully wanted. Lam made it clear that the bill was being delayed and not removed. The protesters were not satisfied and continued to protest until the bill was fully withdrawn, but Lam's superiors in Beijing were reluctant to the thought of removing the bill. They feared that if they did remove the bill, it would create a chain reaction where the public would protest more bills that they felt infringed on their rights. But they didn't have a choice. As protests now escalated, the government's hand was forced.
One of the most recent developments in the Hong Kong protests was November's district council elections. One of the pro-democracy candidates for the 1,200-member group, Joshua Wong, was rejected from running because he was a supposed threat to the one country, two systems policy. The government cited his political organization, saying that the future should be shaped by the people and that independence is not impossible. The government felt that this was a threat to Hong Kong's constitution, which states that the city is part of China. Mr. Wong was quoted saying, "My position is that any decision on Hong Kong's future should be carried out within the constitutional framework of one country, two systems. Supporting democratic self-determination does not mean supporting Hong Kong's independence from the central government of the People's Republic of China." The government felt threatened by his ideas, so they found a reason to disqualify him, and they did. This shows just how much influence China has over Hong Kong. But overall, the election was a success for the protesters, as they won 3/4 of the available seats in the election. Lam said in a post-vote statement that there are various analyses and interpretations in the community in relation to the results, and quite a few are of the view that the results reflect people's dissatisfaction with the current situation. The people are slowly using their democratic power to influence the 1,200-person council and eventually have one of their own as chief executive.
People are protesting for freedom and change in the oppressive state of China. The world's eye should be kept on Hong Kong as the situation could possibly escalate. This city is also crucial to international affairs because it is one of the most significant global financial capitals in the world. The US alone has an estimated $82 billion invested into the city. America will also impose sanctions if China performs actions too severe to back down the protesters. The US Congress passed the bill threatening sanctions, but Trump refused to sign the bill as he is supposed great friends with Xi Jinping, the president of mainland China. Hong Kong is questioning China's power under the world's eye and must act very carefully in response. It is one city against a nation, and they're winning.